And I think that's us. That's us live, and we're back. We've not done one for a few weeks for various reasons, but now we're back for another Imagery Hive live stream. So, Alex, welcome back.
Nice to be back on the live stream. Hello
Yeah,
to everybody across the various platforms that we stream
yeah.
this live to. Obviously, you can follow Inventory Hive on LinkedIn, YouTube. Where else are we, Mitch? Twitter,
In
Facebook, Instagram, the
Instagram,
lot.
yeah. Follows on the lot. Instagram's quite a new one to us, so we're trying to. We've only been on there about a month, but yeah, it's getting some good traction on there. Definitely on the Instagram
Yeah,
scene. We've started to share quite a few of your posts, Alex, on Instagram, like you put on LinkedIn about your build to rent site visits, because I know you do quite a few of them.
Yeah, I'm quite fortunate in the sense of my job role as head of build to rent. I get to go out and see all of these beautiful brand new buildings. I mean, if apartment blocks are your thing, then it's definitely the place to go and have a look at some images. So new builds generally, new build apartment developments, plenty of amenity spaces, and obviously while I'm there, on board in the system, training the team and whatnot, I get the opportunity to have a look
Yeah,
round. So
yeah,
I always take some snaps and get them shared on
yeah.
on my LinkedIn, and then Mitch steals them for our Inventory Hive Instagram.
When I say steal, yeah, steal them. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I do. Yeah. And just a little bit of breaking news for you guys, just before we get stuck in today's topic, is we'll be exhibiting at the EA Masters again this year. Obviously,
Fantastic.
we won the best overall supplier last year, and we've decided to take the plunge and exhibit again this year. So we're looking forward to being there. We'll be on stand 55 next to the Kerfuffle guys. So we're looking forward to that. I know they're really popular at the EA Masters. So come and visit our stand. We've got some exclusive merchandise that when I say exclusive,
I was going to say, do I
um,
even have any of this yet,
well,
or is it
well,
exclusive to our EA
I'm
Masters
I'm not going to
attendees?
say what the merchandise is, but everyone always says, "Oh my God, I love this! I want to take one of these." So come to our stand and find out what that is. And
Okay.
also, we'll be doing an exclusive offer as well at the Air Masters, where we'll be offering everyone 30-day trial, 20% off for the first 6 months, and you'll also get a Costa coffee voucher if you book in a demonstration as well. So do pop to our stand and find out more. So yeah.
Brilliant.
So today's topic is, why are virtual tours cost neutral? So I sat next to Alex in the office a couple of weeks ago, and this article popped up on my Facebook page, and it was an article, and Alex will share it in a second. Now, in fact, if you want to get the article up, Alex, I'll share it with those on the live stream today.
I'll share the
And it was,
screen once.
even though this was in Ireland, I believe, this property,
This was in
but
Dublin. Yeah.
this
Just
was
to
in
confirm, my
Dublin.
my 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 screen is sharing, correct?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. So this was in Dublin, and it's a queue of hundreds of people. These are all tenants going to view a property. Now,
Or
this is like
prospective tenants, we should say,
prospective
really.
tenants, yeah,
Yeah.
going to view a property in Ireland, and this is just a standard two-bed terraced house by the looks of things.
Yeah, I mean, I've
Um,
I've read the article in detail and had a look at the housing market in Dublin, and there seems to be somewhat of a lack of supply to some
yeah,
extent, which is obviously why there's such a high demand for this property in
yeah,
particular, due to the supply. However, can you? This is where we sort of came up with the discussion of
yeah,
our virtual tour product. I
yeah,
mean, obviously there are others out there, but why they are so beneficial
yeah,
when marketing the property, because having a queue of, literally, this was hundreds and hundreds of people
mm,
down the street just to come in and have a look at the property that they want to rent, is
yeah,
it's pretty ridiculous, to be honest.
yeah. Oh, like there's two sides of the coin with this. It's one, it's great. You've got all these people coming to view the property, but the other flip side of the coin is, could would could it have been
Could it have been
shortlisted?
easier, better, more efficient,
Yeah,
less
e-
time intensive? Because
yeah,
if you've got to show, say there was 200 people there, I think the article alluded to more, but if there
yeah,
was 200 people there, could that's a lot of time you've got to spend as either an agent or a landlord
yeah,
or whoever is marketing that property
yeah.
with different people and showing them round. So could that
Uh,
have been time better saved, basically?
exactly. It's a point of, I wonder how. Say if on average, say there was 200 people there, and they had to spend at least 10 minutes with them on average.
Yeah.
Obviously, to obviously my maths isn't. Is it? Put
I
me on
was
the
just about
spot
to
with
say,
the maths here.
are you going to
It's going
do
to
that,
take a
Mitch?
number of hours. Going to take a number of hours to show all those prospective tenants around that property. So the cost implications of that is obviously it's time out of the day that they could have been spending that time doing other things, whereas potentially having a virtual tour to condense that shortlist and vet those tenants beforehand is could have been time spent better. Would you agree, Alex?
Absolutely. So, just as an example here,
Yeah,
so when we say time spent better and having a virtual tour, this is one of the sites I was fortunate enough to go and visit. This is the Arches part of the Cortland
yeah,
brand. And I actually created this tour while I was there. Now, what we say when we're qualifying leads basically is whoever wants to come and see this property, just following this simple link. Now, this took me about 15 minutes to put
yeah.
together
And this was
in
put
total.
together using one of the 360 cameras and the Image Hive app. Is that right? So
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. So integrated with the Inventory Hive app, you can see the. I think I use the Insta 361X there,
yeah,
um, and then obviously you can have standard images as well. So my screen's a bit laggy because I'm hosting this on here, but
yeah,
like you can see inside of the wardrobe, you can have your standard images as well as those 360s. But when we consider that queue of 200 people, 10 minutes a person, you're talking multiple hours. If you're spending 5 minutes with the first and they go,
yeah.
"Oh, I don't like it," they've not they've wasted your time because equally it's a mutual transaction, isn't it? But
Yes.
they could have already had a look at this tour, gone, "That's not for me."
Yeah.
And as you can see, it's easy to navigate round. You can go through the various places. You can see absolutely everything within the unit. Obviously, this is a great example from the Cortland brand that they've put
Yeah.
on over in Leicester. But you can see everything, and you can see how spacious it is. There's no sort of gimmicks with camera
No.
angles and whatnot. It
No.
is just plonk the camera down
Yeah.
and sort of away you go
Yeah.
from that respect.
Yeah. The key thing as well is that, Alex, that camera you took those photos on was, if I'm going to share my screen now, actually. They're not very expensive. Like
They d-
people think
yeah,
that cameras probably cost run into the thousands. Let me
there
just
are options out there that do run into the thousands, don't get me
yeah,
wrong. However, that is then a way up of budget. So this
yeah,
is the exact camera that I used actually. So
yeah,
this is the Insta 361X. As
yeah,
you can see there, without the VAT, 377.
mm,
So
uh,
400 quid, say,
yeah,
as an example. We
and
do also partner with Ricoh as well, and they have a multiple options of cameras. As you can see there is options that do go into the £1,000 mark.
yeah,
You do get slightly quicker processing speed and slightly sharper images.
yeah,
However, as you saw from that Insta example there, I think all cameras are clearly suitable to
yeah,
give that resident or that prospective tenant a good example of what they might be seeing. So
yeah,
you're saving yourself time, and as the old quote goes, "Time is money, my friend."
yeah.
So
The thing as well is that, Alex, like I said, time is money, but the initial setup cost isn't, like I said, isn't as
yeah,
expensive as you think, because we've just demonstrated the prices there. Those cameras on our website, they're direct links to Rico's and Insta360's website. So you're not purchasing those cameras directly from us. They're just a separate URL link directly to their websites to get those. But like I said, there's other 360 virtual tour providers out there who supply cameras which you can pay monthly for or run into the thousands, which I understand, which makes you think, is it are virtual tours starting are not as expensive as you think anymore, especially with the cameras we've just shown you and the subscription costs as well. um, Something to add on to that, I've got some statistics that I've managed to dig out about virtual tours, how they can be cost neutral, because creating a virtual tour, you might think um, it's going to take a lot of time actually creating those tours at the property. Like, you might think you'll be there hours and hours, but
as I said, that example that I've just had on the screen maybe took me.
yeah,
Obviously, I'm proficient with the software. I'm
yeah,
used to it, but it took me 15 minutes to actually create that tour. Obviously, if anybody begins to use our platform, they too, in turn, will become proficient. It's important just to note here we do have
yeah,
many training videos, and also are happy to provide training to
yeah.
any of our users that do wish to look at that option as well. Um, but it just shows that it doesn't take hours and hours to like
No,
when
it
they first came out. I think the connotation was you have to sit there and stitch photos together and
yeah,
spend ages putting hyperlinks in and such, which probably was the case a few years back. But nowadays, it really doesn't need to be that complicated,
no,
as demonstrated within our software. To be honest.
yeah. It's like something you got to take into account as well is how much time and fuel would it cost for an agent or property manager or landlord or build to rent provider to show 50 people around 50 properties in a day compared to pop into that same unit and space or that property, creating a virtual tour and sharing it virtually, especially with rising costs, fuel costs as well. So the cost of a physical viewing is going to rise compared to doing it virtually. And I'm sure,
I definitely think that's a good point, and I
yeah,
think it leads to the quality of your leads. As I
yeah,
mentioned with that Dublin example within that article, it means that they will have almost already been vetted. They're only going there now just to see the physical space.
yeah,
They already know that they like it.
yeah,
Therefore, your conversion rate, if you want to put numbers to it, your conversion rate from viewing to actually sealing the deal
yeah,
would be a lot stronger as well,
yeah. Uh,
which is
on,
just less wasted time.
on those conversion rates, another stat I've just got here is that guided virtual viewings on properties boost conversion rates by nearly 20%. So that's that's like 20% is huge, and if especially if you multiply that across hundreds and hundreds of properties.
Yes.
Um, Also, virtual tours sold for 5.62% more than those without a virtual tour. So it actually boosts the value of the property, which is something definitely to consider. So that's where the neutralizer, or it might even be um, a
Cost
lot better to do.
beneficial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cost beneficial. So I know the title of this is cost neutral, but could it be actually cost beneficial if you actually increase the value of the property? Um, Also, they found that lettings listed with virtual tours had 8% better than those without. So, from a letting perspective, that's increased by 8%.
Obviously, a lot
Uh,
of the clients that I work with are all within the sort of
Yeah,
lease up, renting ASTs
yeah,
market. So I always consider it from a rental standpoint. However, as you've just touched on there with your stats, Mitch, they help boost sales.
yeah,
Essentially, letting out is selling an experience to a customer as well, in a
yeah.
sense, but it just shows that it's for all parties involved within the property industry, essentially.
Mm. And one final stat, they call me the stat man, is
He's a
uh,
stat man. Bee-ba-ba-ba-da-bum.
recent Google research found that 67% of participants wanted a virtual tour before going to visit a property. So
Because they don't want to waste their time either.
yeah, it's almost becoming standard now that a virtual tour has to accompany a property when it's up for sale or for let.
Yeah.
So definitely one to consider as well.
I
Um,
think it's important, especially with sales side of things as well. I know a lot of people that have bought properties. They go for two, three, four viewings occasionally
yeah,
throughout the process. So some of that might be like measuring up windows and doors and what have you if you're purchasing a property. But if you just want to check, oh, what fridge has it got in? For
yes,
example, do I need to replace the fridge whilst they're buying all of their appliances and such ready for their
yeah,
moving date? They can just flick back to the virtual tour, have a look, and then they can decide then.
yeah. That's a really good point because it probably saves time on the tenant or prospective buyer ringing up the agent asking questions about the property
Yeah,
where they've
which
got it all.
saves the agent's time in having to respond to those as well. Don't get me wrong, touch points with your business is always good,
Yeah,
but it's just an important point to note.
yeah. We touched on briefly as well, Alex, about the production time because there's a bit of stigma about it taking it too long. And I know you mentioned about how that virtual tour you showed earlier only took, how long did it take? 10, 15 minutes to
15 minutes, I'd say, if
yeah.
I was being
So this
frank with that
this
one.
this example on the screen, we've got one of the compatible 360 cameras. So obviously the Ricoh and Insta ones. I'm just gonna on this example, I'm just gonna pair it to the Image Hive app. So it talks via Wi-Fi. So the camera just pops up in your Wi-Fi settings on your device. You
That
just
doesn't
tag it.
mean that you need Wi-Fi within the property, by the way.
No,
It
no,
it creates a
exactly,
Wi-Fi signal between device and camera.
exactly that. So then you just put the camera in the middle of the room. You press take photo, and it will capture the 360 photo of that room.
The range is
And
quite good on those as well, so it means
yeah,
that you can actually vacate the room. Obviously, I wasn't within any of the pictures. Mitch isn't within that picture there,
no,
um, so you
exactly.
can leave. The only time I would say that the range becomes any form of slight issue is when capturing outdoor spaces, because
Yeah,
obviously you need somewhere to basically go and hide.
yes,
But
exactly.
if you're like if you're just doing like the decking area, which is right outside the back patio doors, for example, you just pop yourself back inside
Yeah,
and you're good to go. But this example that Mitch is playing through now just shows how simple it is to add hotspots to that, and that's all
yeah.
done within our app.
You can actually do it while you're at the property just to get a feel for the property as well.
Yeah, I would
Which
always recommend when you get back, sensor check it before publishing it live. But
yeah,
generally speaking, you can do everything from the app. That's just my own OCD that comes into play. Of right, I want to sit there and scrutinize everything before I click the live button.
yeah. And this is an example of taking more detailed standard photographs as well to add into your virtual tour. So I cleaned my fireplace before I did this one. So but yeah, so it's just really easy to use, and it just reduces the stigma behind the actual costs. And with regards to the costing as well, you can see here by this price list is the subscription costs do not need to run into the hundreds of pounds anymore. Like for example, if you want to store 50 virtual tours and have 10 links live at one time, then it will only cost you £15 a month,
So if
which
you're
is
marketing 10 properties a month, it's only going
yeah,
to cost you £15 from a virtual tour creation
yeah,
standpoint. Obviously, I can't talk
yeah,
about your other portals, your Rightmoves, your Zooplas, etc.
yeah,
But for us to host and for you to create 10 published tours, only £15 a month.
yeah,
And then Mitch obviously said at the start the outlay cost of a camera. If you've already got
yeah,
one because you use us for your reporting, that's brilliant. There's basically no setup cost then, in which case, but you don't necessarily have to use us for reporting. If
mm,
you're in the sales side of things, we can
yeah,
obviously accommodate that. But this as we said at the start, this all sort of came about because of that article that we saw
yeah,
on Facebook with those queues in Dublin, and obviously, as I said, the housing market there is um, slightly stripped back. There's
yeah.
not the supply to demand ratio, but that could still have saved people a lot of time if they
Yeah,
had a virtual tour.
and times you find it now. Time is starting to become more and more precious as well, especially
Absolutely.
in the lettings and management market as
Well,
well. So
I think just to go off on a tangent slightly, I think customer service is so paramount now
mm,
between even within estate agency and letting agents. The customer service aspect, the touch points with the tenants and the residents, they're what help your brand grow and give you a
yeah,
good reputation. So it's not just a case of right, let it out onto the next, let it out onto the next. It like those the time that it takes to have a good quality conversation. Ask how somebody is, not just have you paid your referencing fee yet.
yeah,
Like it's how's your day going, blah
yeah,
blah blah.
exactly.
So and that all takes additional time. Which if you're out on viewings for 8 out of the 9 hours of the day that you're working, that doesn't leave a lot of time
Yeah,
for your admin, does it?
no,
So.
exactly. That pretty much comes to the end. We'll try and keep these short and sweet, about 20 minutes long, because we don't want to bore people, especially on a Friday afternoon. But this video will be embedded on the news feeds on our LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook pages, and it will also be embedded on our YouTube page as well if you want to catch up. So
Yeah, if you are
thanks to everyone
watching,
today.
if
Yeah,
you are watching on demand, obviously, no questions on along the side of the comment section here will be
yeah,
answered with us talking
yes,
back to you. However, feel free to get in touch via inventoryhive.co.uk. We have got a inquiry form within there. We offer a free trial, or equally just drop us an email on
yeah,
info@inventoryhive.co.uk.
perfect. Appreciate your time again, Alex,
Not a
legend,
problem.
and we'll catch up again in a couple of weeks. And thanks to everyone today.
Thanks for joining us. Bye bye.
Cheers. Cheers, guys.